What is going on, everybody? Looks like we have a packed house right now for tonight's stream. Let me know in the comments or the chat if you can hear me okay. And we'll get started here in a second. I'm just trying to get my glove on, but it's stuck on my fingers here. But what we're going to be doing is painting some Squigs. These were purchased in a Start Collecting Gloomspite Gets. And the Squigs are actually usable as wandering monsters in Warcry. But, you know, it might turn out you just don't really use them that much. So they might be up for sale as just, you know, a nicely painted Squig unit for your Warcry, or for your Age of Sigmar army. And then for my Gloomspite team, I also have some Squigs from the Zarg's Bags Gets. And that comes with like 2 or 3 Squigs. Which, that's plenty, right, for Warcry. So it'll be one of those things. I paint these up for the wandering monsters. And then we'll end up probably just selling them on eBay, maybe. We'll see. Because I'm not starting a goblin army or nothing for Age of Sigmar. But I put them all on handles so we can try and switch between them good. Right now, the teeth was base coated with this bone white and then Agrax Earthshade. I'm going to highlight the teeth, but I think I need to do something with the gums first. And I probably actually should have worked on the gums before the teeth. And I think I'm just going to ignore inside their mouths for the most part. Some of them you can see actually inside their mouth quite a bit. But I think it's going to be pretty hard to paint in there, so I think I'm just going to ignore it and leave it kind of that dark green color from the base coat. So yeah, let me know if you can hear me, and we're going to get started here. I'm going to grab, let's say, a size 1. So we're going to go with the size 1 ghost brush here. If you like the ghost brushes that I use, I do make them, and they are available on eBay. So head on over and buy a set if you like what we're doing. I think for the gums, so you see here, you can see there's enough gums showing that you got to do something with it. And I probably eventually will highlight the lip, at least the bottom lip. But we don't want the gums, I don't think, overly, how do you say it, pronounced, I guess. So I think we might go with like a contrast paint. Maybe like a, yeah, I think I might be trying this Magos purple contrast paint for the gums. These little Squiggies have been basically airbrushed green, dark green, and then a lighter green from above. And then I took them and I kind of sprayed a flesh tone kind of at their chin. And then I made a wash with the main ingredient being Vallejo dark yellow mixed with some kind of black and brown tones. And that's it. And then I base coated the teeth and washed them with Agrax. So I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, this Magos purple doesn't tint over anything all that well, which I think is going to be perfect for doing the gums, giving them enough color but not worrying about them being bright purple or too bright or anything like that. So there we go. Magos purple over that kind of flesh tone. And it's wet, so it's a little more shiny than it will be when it's matte coated and finished, but looks pretty good. And we're gonna try and avoid the teeth and skin. But because I haven't highlighted the teeth yet, I can fix mistakes most likely with a highlight. So I think that's about it for the gums on this guy. You know, it's not gonna stay purple, but just to see it, I'll go ahead and put a bit of this Magos purple on his tongue. It'll probably be like a purple pink tone when I finish the tongue. Well, basically what we're doing is we're using the contrast paint just like a normal paint, but because of its transparency, it's kind of tinting or glazing. And then hopefully it's doing that enough that there's interest in the color without having to, base coat, wash, highlight something as simple as like the gums. Alright, so there we go. He's got his tongue purple. We'll leave that like that. And then honestly, if I just took some pink and highlighted the tongue and left that part showing purple like that, that'd probably be enough to call it good. So let's grab another one here. If I had this plan from the beginning, I would have maybe purposely left the gums a lighter color. That way this purple would show up more. But I think this subtlety is going to be kind of nice. This kind of unique green squig color with the kind of flesh tones in their cheeks and stuff. And the muted out gums. They're not going to have that full-on cartoony squig look. That's pretty common. And at the same time, we want to be getting these finished up and gamed with, so we're not going to spend probably a ton of time on them. Here's a fun thing. I did the spikes on all of them as bones, but that guy, his spikes seem more like they were just skin, like shark fin kind of style. Whereas these guys seem like they actually had spikes on their top of them. So anyway, hopefully that's correct. I'll give the brush a little rinse. That's it right now. We're just going to go through these gums. I haven't been streaming quite as much lately because the stuff I've been painting has been a lot of stuff like this, which, when you're working on a single model on the stream, you can make a bunch of progress, keep it pretty interesting all the way through, and it's pretty entertaining to watch, hopefully. But when you're batch painting a squad of 10, like back when I was doing the Eldar units, or, I've been working on the Deepkin, it's just not really that interesting to stream. And because it's kind of a more tedious way to paint, I've actually been kind of enjoying just listening to YouTube or whatever on my own. And I'm going to try to get some purple on that tongue in there, but not going to stress about it. So here we are, getting some paint on some squigs. Now when I get to this guy, you know, he'll be a good one to do on stream because he's one model and we can start to finish, you know, make sure, try to really make some progress on him on one video. But when you're working on, I'll show you a Deepkin. You know, I got the Deepkin archers here. And I'm working on them, but this is the same as the squigs, right? They're just getting washed and base coated, and they're just not overly entertaining to watch, I don't think, because I'm basically just, you know, do the red cloak on this guy and then switch over, do the red cloak on this guy, and then basically it's 10 times doing the same thing, which is probably not super entertaining. But, oh well. We're going to try to make the best of it here with painting squig gums and mouths. If you have any questions, of course, put them in the chat or the comments. In our Warcry campaign, I actually played the goblins once. So I got 3 teams going now. I got the Unmade, I got the Deepkin, and then I played the goblins once. So I'm tracking 3 warbands in the campaign that me and my buddies are doing. And I got I bought the box of the the Warcry starter set for the Night Haunt. So I might feel inspired and get those guys built up and painted. I'm also fairly confident I have a decent plan for a unit of fire dragons. So I wouldn't mind maybe switching over to paint a unit of 10 Eldar fire dragons. But that's going to be after I get some of this Warcry stuff completed. But then, you know, maybe do that basically before I start a new project like the trolls that came in this set or the Goblin Warband. We've been having a lot of fun playing Warcry. It's a pretty good game. It's got some balancing problems, but if you're playing with a group of friends, you can probably, you know, house rule a few things. And like we've been basically every scenario's 1 turn longer. That helps prevent, you know, units that can just fly and pick up the treasure and carry it to the other side of the board before the other army can even walk across the board and win the game. Doesn't totally prevent it, but it helps. Basically, any mission that's 3 rounds in Warcry, play it, make it 4 rounds. Not to mention, some of the times your different parts of your warband, you know, you separate it into your shield, your hammer, your dagger. Well, sometimes some of those don't even show up till round 3, meaning they're not even in the game. Because where they deploy they basically will move, but not ever be able to attack or do anything. Unless there's some really fast flyer type thing, which is already a really strong thing in the game, and then they get another benefit on top, being able to maybe do something when they come in at the end, which is not what they need. They don't need further buffs, but so anyway, if you play the 3-round missions, go 4 rounds and it helps. One thing though I see with Warcry, maybe it's because I haven't actually named my warband, like the characters, but I don't think I'm, as attached to them as maybe like a Blood Bowl player or a Necromunda character. Warcry, everybody seems a little more expendable. And your leader's kind of immune to any of the real bad injuries, like death. So if your leader gets taken down, it's not really a big deal. Which I guess actually it kind of adds to the feel-good fun factor of the game. Because, one thing you don't want in those kind of campaign games is like somebody to snowball and destroy everybody's fun because they had a good matchup or a lucky first game, or they rolled lucky on the loot table and got a bunch of free money or something like that. So far it's been good. A lot of us are playing multiple warbands as well. So that's actually adding to it pretty good, I think, as far as when we're playing multiple warbands. Nobody's going to really steamroll and stuff because nobody's played the same warband more than maybe 4 or 5 times. Whereas if everybody was switching around and then one person just played the same warband over and over, that would be a problem. I think I might go with pink from Mecha for their lips. But I think it might be too pink. So what I might do... Maybe I'll mix a little bit of this light flesh in there. And I think I'm going to mix a little touch of gray. If I have a gray. Oh boy. Well, it's kind of a gray sand color, but it's called Desolated Beach. I think we might go ahead and put just a little drop in there. What I'm hoping is that it will kind of desaturate it and maybe a drop of water too. Use an old brush here and stir it up. So it's kind of a gray pink color now. There we go. Yeah, desaturating it just because for the most part the models aren't, super vibrant, and I'm not trying to make them have lipstick. So that's why you would add a little gray. I think what I'm going to do is just kind of just tap highlight. They have kind of a natural bumpy texture on the lips, but And I'm just going to do it on the bottom. The bottom lip. The top one is still pretty green from my just the way I sprayed them, so we'll keep it green. So yeah, we're gonna see him here. Just kind of tap highlight. And that gives them just a little extra character. So yeah, I mean, if you remember from when we started, just putting a little bit of that Magos purple on the gums and a little highlight on the bottom lip, and the mouth is looking way more dynamic. And we're still using the size 1 ghost brush. These kind of little highlights are kind of what separates a model that really looks great to just one that looks pretty cool. Like just redefining a little bit of light on that bottom lip just starts to add a little bit more dynamic look to the model. Makes their mouth pop a little more on the tabletop. Doesn't actually require any particular talent or skill. Just a little extra effort. You know, one extra little step here. But you can see we're flying through it. It's not like it takes a ton of time. And I could even do it faster if I wanted. It's going to be kind of a pain to paint this little goblin in this guy's mouth. One of the reasons I thought the green Squigs, you know, I don't really ever see them green. Nobody really ever sees them green because everybody paints orcs and goblins green. So by having the green Squigs, they look kind of unique. But that one actually has a goblin in his mouth. So what I'm going to need to do is just come up with something to paint that goblin, possibly a green color, but different enough that he still pops out from the squig that's trying to eat him. Sometimes here on the little lines where the mouth, you know, it's kind of stretched. I'll put a little highlight there too. Not on all of them, but some of them I did. Depends on how prominent the detail is. Like right here, you can see there's kind of some raised area there, maybe a little bit down there. I'm just going to give it a little extra highlight to it. Like here, you could carry it up on the there all the way up. Kind of on the cheek. You know, if you want to separate it from the gums a little bit there. So that's all of them. Highlighted the lips. Pretty cool. I could, you know what, I'm gonna do it. If they have this pink on the top of their kneecap, just when I airbrushed them, I'm gonna highlight their kneecaps. Not all of them are gonna get it because some of them it stayed green. But just showing, I don't know, a little more interest there on the leg. Not gonna go, you know, force it or go too crazy on highlighting the legs. But I think that little extra highlight on the kneecap, especially like on this one, you know, just gives it a little extra pop, I guess. And it actually, so far, all of them, their kneecaps are this kind of flesh tone, so that's kind of cool. I was thinking only a few of them would have it. And you could even put a little bit on their leg, you know. Just highlight them a little bit more. What's up, Risk? How's it going? Hello from Arizona. You know, I even like that too on the little bit on the leg. Pulls that up. So let me go back real quick and just do that to the ones I already did. Oh, this guy already got it. You know, that little detail, I'm just going to add more interest. So yeah, what I was doing is just highlighting the kneecap, but actually if I put a little bit on the thigh, just helps pull it out a little bit. What are you working on tonight, Risk? Yeah, and honestly, these guys, I mean, they're getting close to being done. I'm not going to do too much. I might highlight their nose and eyelids a bit. I think that's not a bad idea. And then, of course, some of them I have, you know, they have like mushrooms and stuff growing on them and things like that. But for the most part, I mean, the squig's basically done. I'll highlight the teeth too, actually. We'll do that next. And what I'm doing here is what I call like a tap highlight. So like even when I'm highlighting the knee or the up the leg, I'm just doing that. Just tapping it. Leaving small breaks in the line of highlight there. This guy's a little interesting because he has like a really big jaw. Maybe we'll even... Maybe we'll put a little bit of highlight there. I don't know if that's necessary, but we did it. Like even on him, we could put a little line. Help show the form there. So that looks pretty good. So yeah, this guy here, like, you know, even though the squig's almost done, there's still a whole goblin inside. See his hands. But I'm not 100% sure how we'll do that. I mean, if I go with like a different green maybe, or what I might do is even just go with a different color altogether for this goblin. He could be like a, I don't know, a different color goblin that the squig didn't recognize because he wasn't green and he ate him. So, I'll work on him right now anyway, but the teeth are this Vallejo Bone White, and then they have Agrax Earthshade on them. So because the Agrax Earthshade is dark, I should be able to highlight just with Bone White and not even have to go up to another color. If you wanted to get really good looking teeth, you could even maybe mix in some, you know, color or glazes to try to like create the illusion of like tartar or something. And this will help too if they got a little too much purple on them. This is kind of the more difficult one here. Because he's got an actual goblin in his mouth. Makes it a little harder to see all the little teeth and stuff. So we go on this guy like a real big guy. Or he's got a, you know, big mouth. And we can just tap in our highlights again. Anytime I paint a, well, let's see if we can see that on camera good. So that's highlighted. And it's not highlighted. And it doesn't really show up. But anytime I do like a competition model, it would just be a lot more colors. and a lot more layers of these little kind of tap highlights and hatch mark highlights. I don't even know if I might highlight the toes if they have like a big toenail on that particular model. But for the most part, I'm just trying to bring out the teeth. So let's see if we can actually see the difference. So the one on the left is highlighted. The one on the right is not. Can't really tell, but in person you can, so it's worth it. These tap highlights with things like washes and stuff, they're just adding more texture, right? So you have the base coat, which more or less is going to be a solid coat, but then the wash is going to have kind of interesting ways it pools or dries, leaving, you know, staining and stuff, which adds kind of texture to the surface. And then by doing these little tap highlights, you're basically adding a little bit more texture, which, you know, is a little bit more interesting to look at. We got to go back to this big boy here. We didn't do his toes. Then any kind of staining from the purple, you know, that's left on the teeth, maybe that's blood, whatever. It's subtle enough that, especially on this size model, unless you're really looking really up close, you're probably not going to see it. And those subtle differences in color variation and whatnot on the teeth will actually make it more interesting, in my opinion. So yeah, I know it's not the most heart-stopping excitement paint stream when you're batch painting but I don't know if anybody actually watches this. I think I demonstrated a pretty good way to get some pretty good looking teeth. Oh, any of them that have horns on top, I'm going to make sure I actually do highlight those. So we definitely want the tops to be bright. Let me just look back, see. Okay, so on this guy here, there's a couple I should put a highlight on. putting highlights on, everything from the top down helps the model pop on the table. So it's worth it to do. Got some packages shipped out for the Kickstarter this week, and I'll have probably a good batch of, I don't know, 30 or 40 of them maybe out Monday. So that's good. Oops. A little too heavy on my dot there. So yeah, see, like he's got a little mushroom on his head. So we'll have to figure out how we want to paint those little things. This guy's got all kinds of teeth poking out of his cheek, or bottom lip, I guess. All right, we got 2 left. Yeah, if anybody's got any questions, let me know in the comments, or if you're watching in the future. Or if you're watching right now, of course, put them in the chat. Always when you turn these streams on, you want to have some kind of interaction, or else I could just be listening to like a podcast or something. So, oh, we got one big guy left. He's got like the most. He's got the big horn on his head, spikes down his back. If there was a champion squig, I think it's this guy. I don't know the rules for the squigs in Age of Sigmar, but if there was like a squig alpha or something, it's him. But yeah, that's, I don't know what else be working on the stream here. Oh, also, if you're watching, please hit the like button. I think that helps YouTube. Helps the algorithm know people were watching this, and maybe more people want to watch. When I hit 2,000 subs, I think I'm going to give away an airbrush set. Always people in my comments or whatever, they're like, oh, I don't own an airbrush, I don't own an airbrush, so it might be nice to give away an airbrush. So that way, somebody that doesn't have one gets a chance to play with them. Now, I don't use the airbrush for a ton of stuff, but you know, I did the green with the airbrush and then just sprayed this kind of skin tone toward their chin with the airbrush. I'm not super accurate with it to do like little small details like some people do, but I honestly don't even really want to be good with it in that way because I don't care that much about airbrushing. But they are a good tool. Let's see. Thinking about maybe painting this guy's saliva here. And I might go like a baby blue. Let's try light blue from Model Air. If we don't end up liking this, then we'll just paint over it. But I'm thinking maybe I could do this kind of gray blue and then maybe a wash on this saliva. Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad you like them. Were you in on the first Kickstarter, or did you get them off eBay? I haven't shipped any to France yet for this recent Kickstarter. Just working on some of the US shipping right now. You know, actually, this baby blue looks kind of good. It's pretty subtle. That maybe we'll just keep it. Yeah, that looks actually like it fits the model really pretty well. So I'm just going to take a white, pure white. Gonna put it into that baby blue. I didn't even need a full drop. I should have kind of wasteful, but yeah, we'll put some little tap highlights into the spit. That could be like little bits of reflecting sunlight or whatever. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good, pretty subtle. But I think I'm okay with that. The spit just being kind of subtle there. I was gonna do like a really intense, like a blue like that to make it like comic book spit, but I think I like that subtle look actually quite a bit. Maybe even go like a maroon on the mushrooms. Don't know how many different colors of mushroom I want to do. If different at all, I might literally just stick to one color for all of them. Let's find, let's go with Tuscagore Fur. Just kind of like a brick red. Just a little bit on the brush. I'm just gonna kind of highlight the tongue. Kind of following the same style of doing more tapping than continuous brush strokes. There we go. That little highlight just separates it just a touch from the gums. But it wouldn't actually be a bad color to highlight the gums with. Alright, so kind of even thinking in that same realm of color for the mushrooms. Could maybe go with like a burnt red from Model Color for the mushrooms. I think we'll do it. Red being a contrasting color to green. I'm going to put one drop of AK Ultramat into the red and just kind of wet my brush a little and stir that in. Use that to thin out the paint, but also, you know, gives it a nice finish. I shouldn't be using this size 1 brush to stir. This is a mistake. See how much paint gets up into the ferrule? That's what actually destroys your paintbrushes, mostly. But obviously, I'm aware of it, so I'm going to rinse it off right away. Try not to let paint dry up in the ferrule. But I've been using this brush for probably a year or so, and I have many brushes because they're my brand, so I could afford it to, you know, if it got ruined, I could get another one. I'm not sure I even need to brush this small for these mushrooms. Yeah, so we're just probably going to base coat all the mushrooms with burnt red, and then I guess kind of figure out what to do with them from there. You know, whether that be a wash or contrast paint over top or polka dots on them or whatever. I think I'll probably just hit them with like Agrax Earthshade. Try to dull them way down. Then maybe highlight them with a little bit of this burnt red mixed with maybe like an ivory color or a cream kind of color. And I'll do that same kind of tapping highlight. That'll give them a bit of a texture, and maybe it'll even come off as like a polka dot kind of thing on the mushrooms that you see sometimes in goblin painting. Seen a lot of polka dot mushrooms painted, but never really polka dot mushrooms in real life. That's probably due to Mario. And I'll have to do the stems too. So if this was bright green and these mushrooms were bright red, because they're complementary colors or contrasting colors, there would be so much contrast it'd actually not look very good. Or it'd look kind of similar to maybe like a sports uniform. You know, highly saturated, bright colors side by side. You'll see that a lot in like professional sports teams' uniforms. But by using desaturated colors, so I'm not using fire truck red, I'm using a color called burnt red, which is kind of like a maroon or brick red. And the green on them is not like, you know, Crayola crayon green or green apple green. It's been muted with washes and just wasn't all that much of a bright green to begin with. Then the red and green actually look really nice side by side. Because they still contrast each other because they're complementary colors on the opposite sides of the color wheel. Because they're not equal in saturation, it gives it just a more subtle, natural pop. They kind of naturally show up next to the green, but they're not vibrating next to it like they would be if it was just a little too bright. Okay, so this one actually has sculpted spots. So this one for sure will be getting the spots painted. But for right now, we're just going to make sure we base coat them maroon. And actually what I might do when I do the spots is just use that same blue I did on that other guy's spit. then it'll kind of tie them all the colors together in the same unit. Not like the spots need to be the same color as the spit, but just visually I know it'll look decent. Because they'll look a little bit more like they belong next to each other. A little more color harmony, I guess. Another way to really do it is I could use that same blue mixed with a little bit of this maroon, make a new color that actually has that blue in it, and your eye will like that very much because it'll know that, you know, the colors are in harmony or whatever. Because it'll be seeing the same pigments or colors, just slightly different because they'll be mixed. I don't know what this little pile is. I guess it's a pile of mushrooms, but it's kind of hard to separate. So for now, I'm just going to paint it all red and then kind of figure it out later. Alright, I wasn't actually... I knew they had mushrooms, but... they actually... quite a bit more than I was thinking, even though I, you know, painted all their... all the models have been worked on, somewhat. I'm even doing the mushrooms in kind of a thick coat. Because I'm using a small brush. I just don't want to have to go over the same areas over and over again. So I'm trying to actually kind of get them in one opaque, thick coat. And after we get the mushrooms base coated, I mean, I might be done for the night. Oh yeah, so this one here is a... we'll do this one maybe different. It's like a whole different kind of mushroom, it looks like. Yeah, depending on how far I get on some of this stuff, maybe the next stream we'll be working on the Minotaur. Bring out the wet palette. I haven't used the wet palette since I did my unmade board bin, so still got all those flesh colors on it, which I don't know if I'm going to have to change the paper. But I think with the Minotaur, I'll be able to just kind of let those flesh colors naturally just kind of dirty up my colors and it'll look good. But yeah, I don't know, I think we had a, obviously, just doing some, you know, batch painting, but I think we had a good time. probably hit all of that maroon color with Agric Earthshade. I'm going to go ahead and try this out. I'm going to mix some of this blue. Let's see, we'd mix a little bit of this maroon color with some of this blue color. And we'll use that on this bunch of mushrooms under this guy's foot. So it's kind of a gray purple. Which makes sense because we used a gray blue mixed with a little bit of kind of a desaturated maroon red. So we're not going to get a bright purple. And I think, it's hard to say, but maybe this pile will get that color instead. That might have been a mistake, because I was going to use that color to highlight the spots on this big mushroom. But now I'm not going to use that color to highlight those spots if it's the color I'm using for these mushrooms. These ones are just kind of crazy looking though. They're so bundled together, it's kind of hard to tell exactly what they're trying to show you. And we can I'm going to go ahead and hit the spots. That color with just a little more blue. And it has a little white in it. And I actually felt, or the reason I felt okay doing it with these colors, those spots on the back, that's weird. Now I gotta make them. Because I am gonna wash that mushroom anyway, so it'll change the color once it's washed. Cool. So maybe in the future, a thought would be, you know, these little, they got little beady eyes. They also got little, like, their little eye sockets. So they got little eyebrows, little bridge of the nose. So instead of highlighting the whole squig, which I kind of pre-did with the airbrush and a wash, could probably just, so he's dark here on the tail and he gets kind of lighter up front, and then I could kind of just emphasize that with a few little highlights on the bridge of the nose and eyelids. And that should be enough to make them pop. If you wanted to go, the extra mile, who knows if I'll do it, but you could take like a camo shade or a dark wash and fill in under here, really dark line underneath their bottom lip, which it kind of naturally has that line. You could see on this guy's especially. But yeah, you could really even almost take black paint, thin down, and just thinly really emphasize that cast shadow under the lip. That'll give you a really good pop. Maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. And that's it. I think I'm gonna call it right there. Show you this guy. It's kind of funny, these squigs. Let's get this other guy. I mean, these guys are essentially the same color palette, but you can kind of see the difference here. He doesn't have any bone color on him yet, but he's got kind of the bluer pants with the Coelia green shade. He's got kind of the blue spit. He's got a red metallic kind of bow and a red cape or cloak. They got the red mushrooms. Their skin's green, but different greens. But anyway, yeah, they're pretty similar in palette, which is pretty cool. This guy's gonna get some silver, some dark silvers on him. I got 10 of them that I gotta do. But once again, it's another thing that needs to be kind of batch painted, so it's not super entertaining to watch on stream. But hopefully you enjoyed this. I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do with the gobbo in the mouth. Risk, thank you so much for supporting the paintbrushes and enjoying them and using them. And joining me in the chat, of course. Glad to have you here watching. And I think I will see everybody, maybe tomorrow night. So I don't really keep these planned, but just trying to get them done turning on the stream when I feel motivated to chit chat and paint with you guys. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe and have a good one.